Mr. President.
Senator from West Virginia.
Mr. President, before my colleague leaves, I want to thank the senator from Alaska and my chairman for all the hard work, because it has been a labor that both of us have worked together, because it's something our country needs very desperately. And it's something that's been worked on for 12 or 13 years, so it's time has come. And with that, I'm pleased that we've starting the process turning to the American Energy Innovation Act. Last year, Chairman Murkowski and I kicked off the 116th Congress with a hearing on the outlook for energy innovation. Over the course of the last 14 months, we've heard from experts who have come before the committee to testify on the importance of advancing a broad range of technologies. Because where we stand today, we have no silver bullet to solve the problems that we face, namely both maintaining our affordable, reliable energy and reducing greenhouse gas emissions, while also ensuring that hardworking families and communities aren't left behind. It's for this reason that I say we need to innovate, not eliminate. And I repeat that, innovate, not eliminate. There is a misconception that all these emissions are coming from just the power industry, just one source. That's all we hear about. That's not true. The facts are this. In 2017, the power sector was responsible for 27.5% of the U.S. greenhouse gas emissions. The power industry, coal-fired power plants, natural gas plants now that have turned, was responsible for 27.5%. 29% of our emissions come from transportation, how we come to work, what we use everyday life. 29% comes from that. 22% comes from the industry, the jobs that we do, the industries that we have that we need, the jobs that are provided, and the products that they produce. 11.5% was commercial and residential sectors, the buildings that we're in, commercial and residential, but basically a lot of government buildings. With that in mind, we focus on all the above approach. We didn't leave any rock unturned. Our bill will help reduce emissions in all of these sectors except for our agriculture. Agriculture represents about 9% of the greenhouse gas emissions, and that was not in our jurisdiction. Innovation is a critical step to help us reliably meet tomorrow's energy needs, while reducing emissions not just in our energy sector, but also in industry, buildings, and vehicles. We all know that greenhouse gas emissions are a global issue, and investing now in these technologies will position the United States as a global leader and maintain our competitive edge. It is time to seek practical solutions to reduce our greenhouse gas emissions and find ways to ensure that our energy sector, the environment, and workers can all benefit. Once we vote to proceed to Senate Bill 2657, we will be laying down the American Energy Innovation Act of 2020 as a substitute amendment. This legislation brings together the strong bipartisan work of our committee over the past year and draws from 53 bills. And I repeat, 39 of those are bipartisan. And once it is enacted, it will provide the first comprehensive Senate energy policy update in 13 years. This bill represents an important down payment on research and development at the Department of Energy for a range of technologies to reduce greenhouse gas emissions. In fact, it would advance innovative technologies that can help us reduce emissions across sectors of the economy that account for 90% of current U.S. greenhouse gas emissions. This piece of legislation will put us on a path to reduce 90% of the current greenhouse gas emissions. That includes energy storage, renewable energy, energy efficiency, carbon capture, advanced nuclear, vehicles, and provisions to help get those technologies out of DOE and into the market. As I've said before, there is no silver bullet, and this bill alone will not solve climate change, but it is critical. It's a critical step in the right direction, not just here in the United States, but also for the rest of the world. I'm going to take a few minutes to touch on a few of these now. Let me start with our existing zero-carbon baseload generation nuclear. Unfortunately, the U.S. nuclear industry has been losing ground to international competitors, especially those with state-funded nuclear programs like China and Russia. That is why I worked with Senator Murkowski to create a robust R&D program that will develop new technologies to not only usher in a new era of nuclear, but also reduce the operating cost of the current nuclear fleet that will be required to operate into the middle of this century. if we as a nation are to meet our emissions reduction objectives. We also included My Effect Act, which invests in research and development, and just as importantly, demonstration and deployment for each aspect of carbon capture, utilization, storage. This includes coal and natural gas technologies, utilization, storage, and even atmospheric CO2 removal. Fossil fuels are projected to continue to be a significant source of electric generation in the near future, but not just here in the United States, but around the world. So we need to get ahead of the curve and invest in the technologies that will allow us to continue using them, but in the cleanest way possible, so we're reducing the greenhouse gas emissions. We also included provisions to target industrial emissions that are particularly hard to get to with existing technologies. And with all of this, we need to continue to create quality jobs in this transmitting energy landscape. All of these provisions will protect and create jobs while addressing carbon emissions, a win-win for communities in West Virginia and rural communities across this country. The American Energy Innovation Act also covers a lot of territory when it comes to renewable energy, from the skies and hilltops to the rivers and oceans. The bill includes incentives for small hydropower facilities and an expansion of the Department of Energy's work on marine renewable energy. It also tackles expanding geothermal energy beyond the western states. Lastly, the energy package reauthorizes two incredibly successful programs at DOE that have already helped transform our energy landscape in large and small ways. That is wind and solar technologies. The bill focuses these programs on new materials, enhanced efficiency in design and operation, and their full life cycle from manufacturing to recycling. I want to make sure that these clean energy technologies are aiding the grid and the communities that need distributed or microgrid connections to them from Alaska to Puerto Rico. Of course, storage is a key enabling technology for low carbon, modern grid that will help us achieve our emission reductions and address climate change, all while keeping energy reliable and affordable. Our bill builds on the DOE's existing energy storage R&D efforts, but with additional focus on advancing long-duration energy storage technologies and with a five-fold increase in authorization from current levels. The bill will also help to shore up our supply chain of critical minerals because we're currently depending on imports from other countries, namely China, for many of the mineral commodities required to manufacture everyday items like our phones, security assets like satellites, and emissions-reducing technology like electric vehicles and wind turbines. It's important to strike the right balance between supply chain concerns and environmental stewardship. And I appreciate Senator Murkowski working with me to remove a provision that was concerning to some in our caucus outside groups. And of course, the energy package also has a robust energy efficiency title that would promote efficiency in commercial and public buildings, homes, industry, and the federal government. Energy efficiency really is the low-hanging fruit, and 40% of the nation's energy is consumed in buildings. I repeat that again. 40% of the nation's energy is consumed in buildings. The Department of Energy estimates that efficiency improvements can save the U.S. consumers and businesses 741,000 gigawatt hours of electricity between 2016 and 2035, which is equal to 16% of electricity use in 2035. We can reduce the amount of demand that we have by improving the quality of life, reduce the demand by 16% with not enhancing the quality of life at all, with not deterring the quality of life, Multiple studies have shown that energy efficiency is cheaper than investing in any other type of new generation. It is truly the cheapest kilowatt. It's also readily available. There are lots of opportunities to improve efficiencies in buildings, industry, transportation. These investments and policy changes can and will have a real positive impact in the lives of everyday Americans while saving both energy and money. I call that a win-win, which we don't have many of. And I hope that we have the opportunity to vote on an amendment to add voluntary building codes back into the efficiency title of this bill. both to help consumers save on energy bills and to really advance carbon savings. Finally, the electric grid is undergoing a rapid transformation. It's becoming more complex, more flexible, and more diverse in terms of energy resources. That means that we've got to continue focusing on shoring up our vulnerabilities and anticipating future weaknesses in the ever-changing environment. Our bill supports investments and programs that are of vital importance to securing and protecting our critical energy infrastructure. As I said before, this bill represents a critical step in the right direction. I believe that this package is well balanced, and with many of my colleagues' priorities on both sides of the aisle, it is truly a bipartisan bill. It represents a true effort, and I want to thank Chairman Murkowski, as well as the other members of Energy and Natural Resource Committee for their work over the last 14 months to provide the basis of this package. I encourage my fellow members to vote yes today, and I look forward to working with you this week on the important piece of legislation. Thank you, Mr. President. And I notice the absence of a quorum.